This evening we honor those heroes from all nations whose life was sacrificed in the bloody Battle of Chippawa. On the late afternoon of July the 5th, 1814, a total of some 4,000 men took part in this conflict: First Nations, Americans, British, and Canadians. The War of 1812 was slightly over 2 years old. During the early morning hours of July 3rd, 1814, a vast American invasion force under the command of Major General Jacob Brown had crossed the Niagara River from Black Rock near Buffalo. Fort Erie, with only a small detachment, surrendered that afternoon. The following day, July the 4th, the Americans began to advance northward along the Niagara River, camping that night on the south side of Straits Creek, or Usher's Creek, as it's now called. At the same time, the British, under Major General Phineas Ryle, moved south from Fort George to the north bank of Chippawa Creek at Chippawa, about where Kingsbridge Park is now. On the hot afternoon of July the 5th, the two armies met here. The opening phase of this battle took place in the wooded area we can see to the west, and primarily involved the militia and native warriors of both sides. This was a deadly hit-and-run contest that resulted in heavy casualties. However, the major part, or second phase, of the Battle of Chippawa took place right here in these fields, or on the plain, as it was referred to at the time. So it was that in the late afternoon of that memorable July 5th, two formidable lines of infantry advanced toward each other at right angles to the Niagara River. The British having crossed the bridge over Chippawa Creek, and the Americans, led by Brigadier General Winfield Scott's 1st Brigade, having crossed Straits Creek from their camp on the opposite side. Both armies had artillery support, the British with 6 pieces, the Americans with 7. When the two lines were within 150 to 200 feet of each other, the firing began. It was around 5 o'clock. Ryle was at first deceived, thinking that because the Americans were wearing gray uniforms instead of regulation blue, he was facing poorly trained militia. He quickly realized his error. They were, in fact, well-trained, well-disciplined regulars. And so the battle raged on. After around 40 minutes, Ryle was forced to retreat, and did so in good order, finally reaching the north side of Chippawa Creek, and then tearing up the bridge behind him. The Battle of Chippawa was over. It had been an American victory. On the evening of July 5th, following the battle, hundreds of wounded, dying, and dead lay in these fields and in the woods beyond. In fact, there were some 700 casualties, including a great many wounded, some who were missing in action, and around 200 who had been killed. Most of the dead were buried here on the battle site. As noted earlier, the Battle of Chippawa was a decisive American victory, but a victory with a particular significance. For the first time in the War of 1812, American infantry met and defeated British infantry of approximately equal numbers in open battle. An American colonel declared, "Chippawa was the most important action ever fought by American troops for giving an assurance of strength to our country, which she never had any proof of before." Clearly, the Battle of Chippawa was, for both sides, a turning point in the war. And now, 198 years later, we gather at this very historic site to pay tribute.